The Universal Declaration of Human Rights consists of 30 articles that include civil and political rights, like the right to life, liberty, free speech, privacy, and economic, social, and cultural rights, like the right to health and the right to education. Although it is not binding on states, abbiamo visto l'altra volta, not binding significa che non è vincolante per gli stati. Many countries have adapted and designed their laws or constitutions according to it, and it has inspired many international and regional legally binding human rights treaties. One of these treaties is the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Today, it is one of the world's most translated documents. It has been translated into more than 360 language versions. And here's another video that you can watch which sums up what we have just seen. It's a sort of a cartoon, so it might be kind of interesting to watch if you're interested. And now a little bit of history on the birth of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In order to promote human rights, the United Nations established the Commission on Human Rights in 1946. Eleanor Roosevelt, who's this woman here and this woman here, who was the widow of American President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and a civil rights activist, was the director of this commission. The commission's first task was to create a document expressing universal human rights. Agreement on what to include in the document was very hard to achieve. The UN's member states voted over 1,400 times on the contents of the draft della bozza del progetto, no? Di questa Dichiarazione Universale dei Diritti Umani before adopting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on December the 10th, 1948. This day is now celebrated each year across the world as Human Rights Day. In this video here, Eleanor Roosevelt compares this document to two very important human rights documents of the past. You can watch it to find out which ones, and then you'll find the answers in the script of the lesson, which is in the video description down below. We mentioned the Convention on the Rights of the Child before. Well, the Convention on the Rights of the Child is the most important international human rights treaty for children and young people under 18. The fact that there is a dedicated treaty for children does not mean that their rights differ to those of adults. Instead, the Convention on the Rights of the Child recognizes that children can be more vulnerable than adults and that they sometimes require special protection. The Convention has 54 articles with the basic rights and freedoms to which children everywhere are entitled. Entitled significa a cui hanno diritto. For example, survival, developing to the fullest, protection from abuse and exploitation, full participation in family, cultural, and social life. And they also should have a say in the decisions that affect them. Quindi i bambini dovrebbero avere anche il diritto di avere, insomma, anche loro una parola, il diritto di parola in merito alle decisioni che li coinvolgono. The Convention on the Rights of the Child is the most widely ratified human rights treaty in the world. But what does it take to ratify a treaty? So how does the ratification of treaties work? Well, all treaties must be approved by a simple majority, so over 50% of the UN General Assembly, which consists of all UN member states. We saw this in the previous lesson. Once the General Assembly approves a treaty, it is open for signature. Most treaties specify the number of states which have to sign in order for it to enter into force. But the act of signing itself does not impose legal obligations on a state. It is rather an indication of that state's approval of the treaty. Ratification is the act through which a state agrees to be bound by a treaty. Ecco che cosa significa ratificare un trattato. Significa che lo Stato appunto che ratifica questo trattato acconsente ad essere vincolato dal trattato stesso. States are supposed to take legislative, administrative, and any other necessary measures to incorporate the rights into its law and policies. Quindi prima di ratificare un trattato, gli stati devono prendere, insomma, provvedimenti, quindi attuare dei cambiamenti laddove necessari, in modo da non andare a contraddire il trattato stesso, ad andare contro il trattato stesso con i loro comportamenti, le loro leggi, le loro costituzioni. Each UN treaty has a UN committee of experts to monitor its implementation. If necessary, the committee then formulates a set of recommendations on how a state can improve its performance. Quindi questo comitato di esperti relativo al trattato formula delle raccomandazioni che sono come una sorta di, come dire, suggerimenti per lo Stato che vorrebbe appunto ratificare il trattato, insomma, in oggetto, dove in pratica appunto si consiglia magari di fare dei cambiamenti in questo determinato ambito piuttosto che in un altro, in modo da appunto poi risultare idonei. Once a country has completed this work, it can ratify the treaty. As of 2020, only 3 UN member states have not ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Somalia, which has not had a solid government since 1991. South Sudan, which only became an independent state in July 2011. And the United States, which is really, really interesting. Well, American politicians assert that American laws already have most elements of the treaty, so there is no need for them to ratify the treaty. But US laws violate the treaty in important ways. For instance, the US still allows the courts to sentence people who have committed crimes before the age of 18 to life in prison. And they also allow children from the age of 12 to be put to work in agriculture for long hours and under dangerous conditions. How are human rights protected by the UN? There are times when states are unable or unwilling to guarantee the rights of their populations. Unwilling significa non volere, no? In quei casi in cui magari c'è una dittatura e quindi molto spesso vengono lesi questi diritti. Che cosa succede? If this occurs, the UN has a range of mechanisms to condemn those states and help the victims. Monitoring treaties. When ratifying a UN human rights treaty, states must submit regular reports to the committees, usually every 4 or 5 years. Quindi a loro volta gli stati devono provvedere a creare questi report per provare appunto che il trattato viene appunto preso in seria considerazione, viene rispettato, ci sono tutta una serie di misure che vengono prese appunto per rispettare il trattato stesso. UN Human Rights Council that helps states to meet their human rights obligations through dialogue and technical assistance, and it can also adopt resolutions condemning human rights abuses. And the International Criminal Court, which is an independent global court to which the UN can refer individuals accused of the most atrocious crimes. Individual people accused of the most atrocious crimes, such as genocide, which is the extermination of racial groups. So basically what Hitler did to the Jewish population. Crimes against humanity, for example, extermination, enslavement, torture, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, in italiano la purificazione etnica, which is the removal of an ethnic group from a given territory by a more powerful ethnic group. For example, what happened to Native Americans when the New World was discovered, and war crimes. For example, torture, the use of child soldiers, the killing of civilians. Here's an example. In 2012, this man, Congolese commander Thomas Lubanga, was found guilty for recruiting and using child soldiers during a conflict between Congolese ethnic groups between 1999 and 2003.